Thank you all. Thank you all for coming to our VLAN webinar, Configuring and Troubleshooting with an AccessEnforcer. I want to thank you guys for coming to the meeting. This is going to be a very unique webinar because it's not going to deal only with VLANs, but it's going to deal with a little bit of troubleshooting VLAN. Want to get into it? My name is Duane Pettus. We have Warren Parker on the line. Warren?
Right here with you.
And we're going to do this presentation just to give you a little insight into what the VLANs look like on a Calyptix and some of the things that you will encounter when dealing with a Calyptix. So let's start with our agenda. Our agenda today, and it's going to be a short webinar. Hopefully, if we can get all of our ducks in a row to do these live demo, and I like to do live demos because we show all of the issues that can go wrong when doing setups and all of that, so that you can see that we're not perfect over here. We try our best. So in the agenda, we'll get into our VLANs. We'll do the difference between port VLANing and tags on a VLAN, what it looks like with a Calyptix when you're doing VLANs, and then we'll get into 4 examples of VLANs, and then we'll get some questions and answers. The purpose of this webinar is to pretty much signify when you have gotchas that'll catch you off guard, or some of the do's and don'ts that you'll have with Calyptix. So that's the real purpose of this webinar that we have. The equipment we'll be using for this webinar, we'll be using a D-Link managed switch. This one is a small 5-port switch. We'll use an ingenious access point that we have to signify our Wi-Fi and our differences in VLANs with the Wi-Fi, and of course our Calyptix that we'll have. So when you talk about VLANs, you're talking about a virtual network. This virtual network is basically broken into a broadcast domain. So we'll have different broadcast domains that we have. It's all at layer 2, but you can use a layer 3 switch to segment this in these networks. So what it does is isolates the computer. So when you're talking on, let's say on our diagram here, if you're on the 192.168.1 network, then you can isolate the traffic from your 2 network or from any other network that you have. And these two can talk, but this one can't because they're on separate VLANs, VLAN 2. So you can isolate your network, and that's basically what we're going to be talking about. And we'll give you 2 different ways to do it. The first way we'll do is called port VLANing, which is all untagged traffic. Ironically enough, most of your packets that you have will have a VLAN tag, and the VLAN tag that it'll have is VLAN tag 1, but it's all untagged traffic. And what that means is when you're doing port VLANing is you will plug in different computers or different switches to different ports on your firewall or your managed switch so that you can segment that traffic. And then we'll talk about tag VLANing. And in tag VLANing, you can plug in on the same network's NIC card. You can have multiple VLANs on that same wire that you have. So whereas you can have untagged traffic on there, you can also add tag traffic, and we'll give examples of that as well. So in port VLANing, we talked about it. The VLAN tag 1 will be by default. And what you'll do is you'll have your switch, and you'll just plug your switch into different ports, and those ports will be on different subnets, and they'll still be able to talk. So that's what we mean by port VLANing, segmenting the network by different ports on your firewall. Then you have tag traffic. Now, a header is normally encapsulated, and we add a tag ID into that encapsulation. That tag ID will be put into every packet that is there to tell it specifically what VLAN it comes from. So that's why you can have multiple VLANs on one wire, because that tag ID will tell the router or smart switch where to go by that tag that is put into the encapsulation that's here. Now, there's a possible of 490 VLANs that you can have on one wire. I would not recommend it, but that is what they say is the usable on any type of wire that you can have up to 4,090. When dealing with the Calyptix and VLANs, the VLAN setup location is going to be under Setup Network VLANs, and we're going to look at that once we look at all of the equipment and how we're going to set up everything. So we'll look at under Setup Network and VLANs. We can do VLANs over the Calyptix VPN client that we have on our device. We can also push static routes over the VLANs. We can use the VLANs in our IPsec. Now, here's our first gotcha that I want to let you guys know when dealing with VLANs. If you are switching the parent ID, let's say from NIC 1 to NIC 2, it is recommended that you do not edit the VLAN and just switch the parent ID. It is best that we delete it, delete the VLAN itself. And there'll be a button that says restart networking, and you can restart that. I recommend that we restart the AccessEnforcer itself. And then we create the VLAN on the specific parent NIC that we want it on. So I'll give you an example of what that looks like as we look at the location of where the VLANs are. So in our trusty dusty Calyptix Security AccessEnforcer, you will see that our VLANs are set under setup. Then under network, you'll have the VLAN tag here. Under the VLAN tag, you'll be able to set up what parent NIC this VLAN is going to be under. And presently on this box, we have 3 VLANs. They are tagged with different IDs that we have. And if you wanted to set up a new one, you can set it up accordingly. Make sure that you do put in the VLAN tag, because that is how we're going to associate it and differentiate it from the other VLANs that we have here. Now, one of the other gotchas about the Calyptix that I wanted to bring to mind, generally when you're setting up a network and let's say your IPsec or you're dealing with networks, you don't put the actual IP address that you're going to be setting up your network from. On the VLAN tag, we do. And Nick was nice enough to put in here, one of our developers, an example. So you'll have to set it up 192.168.61.1. Generally, we associate a network with a 0, but we are associating the network by defining the IP address in that network. So that's another one of the gotchas I did want to show you when we're setting up our VLANs. And then the VLAN tag will be here. Now, another thing that happens when we hit the apply button, and I'm not going to add VLAN button here, it takes about 20 seconds for the VLAN to fully propagate through our system. A lot of people would want to jump the gun and they'll say, all right, I created the VLAN, and they'll move to another section. Allow the Calyptix to do what it does. So we want to make sure that your VLAN is set up. We restart all of the services that are important on the VLAN. So we want to make sure all of that information. So once you add the VLAN, give it about 20 seconds and then the VLAN will show up and you can refresh the page. It will show up here and everything will be good to go. The location that I want to show you where the VLANs show up is under home. So if we click the home button and scroll all the way down, you will see that under your link status, your VLAN tags all show up here and they give what parent they are under. So this is very, very important that you know where the location of the VLANs are going to be when dealing with the Calyptix. Before we get into VLANs, I wanted to give you guys a tip that Calyptix has. And this is called local traffic tip. If your network is set up as a flat network, let's say it has a subnet of 192.168.1.0/24, once you put traffic from one IP address on that network going to another IP address, it never hits the Calyptix. All of your traffic will be inside of your switch. And we wanted to give you this tip because we get a lot of calls that come in and say, hey, my client is trying to get to their server and it's slow. And we tell them it has nothing to do with the Calyptix. If you're on the same network subnet, then it's never even going to touch the Calyptix. But we did want to show you the example of how everything is set up so that you can believe us when we say this. So this is our Calyptix tip. So in here, we'll be going from a main 21 to other 21. It will hit the switch, but it will never bounce to the Calyptix so that you can see it going out. If we blow this up, you'll see that we have a switch connected to NIC 1, and that NIC 1 is going to the AE, and then it'll go out to the WAN. And we're going to bring up a box, and this box is called main 21. So in main 21, we want to show the IP address so that everybody will know exactly what machine we're dealing with. And the IP address is 192.168.21.7. Now we're going to bring up another box, and it's called other 21. And other 21, you'll see, will have the IP address of 192.168.21.106. For the people who want to see the traffic, we always use our handy dandy, trusty dusty AccessEnforcer diagnostics page. In our diagnostics under home diagnostics, we go to our packet analyzer. And what we want to do is capture packets on NIC 1 going from the host 192.168.21 and ICMP, which is ping. We just want to see that traffic. So now that we have our ping here, what we want to do is just find out if that traffic is going to show up. From the 21 device, I am going to ping 192.168.21.1, which is the firewall. And then we'll show that traffic and see if it hits the firewall. And we do see we have from the 107 to the 21.1, which is our firewall, we can see that traffic hit the firewall. Now we're going to do our test, and our test is we are going to bring up the main 21 and we're going to ping 192.168.21.106 this time. And we see we can ping that device. And then we're going to go back to our firewall, but we see no traffic shows up from the 21.7 going to the 21.6. Just to make sure, we'll ping the opposite direction just to make sure that everybody believes what we say when we say no traffic. So we'll ping 192.168.21.1 first. And we'll see that traffic hit the firewall. And as you can see, it's propagating in where you see your 192.168.21.6. And now we are going to try to ping 192.168.21.107. And we can reach that device and we'll show our firewall. So as our firewall is coming in, we'll see that there is no traffic. So any local traffic that happens on the same subnet never hits the firewall. We wanted to bring this tip in here because a lot of times when people are asking us to troubleshoot, they're asking to troubleshoot something on their local network, which has nothing to do with the Calyptix. But we just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on that as we were teaching and making sure that you knew what was going on. The most common use of a VLAN is you're taking over a client. The client only has one jack in the wall, and they have a VoIP phone and a computer. So this is the most common network that you'll probably see nowadays because people know that you can do VLANs. They don't put 4 and 5 ports in a room. They only put one. And the most common way, without VLANing, your computer will hook to the back of your phone. Your phone will hook to the wall, as you can see, which will go into a closet into a switch. This switch does not do VLANs, then segmenting the traffic on that one port will not be possible, but you still can run everything on what they call a flat network. So this is the most common use of a network that you'll see at an office. When you get into the complexity of it, you'll get the owner who wants to have a wireless printer, wireless access point in his office. He'll have a switch in his office. He'll have a phone. And then he'll say, well, I want to segment my phone traffic. So he'll plug everything into a switch, plug the switch into the wall, and then that cable will go into your switch. Now, the problem with this is the switch that you have here is not a managed switch. They're probably going to buy some Linksys router. So in this configuration right here, it's not going to work where you can segment your network because the switch here doesn't know if you have this phone that's going to be on a different VLAN. The best outcome that I have to show you how to defeat what's going on is in this complex situation, you'll plug in your printer, your computer, and your phone. Your access point will all go into this switch. There will be one cable going out into your phone. So everything here will be on the untagged network. Your phone is what they call a managed switch. It knows how to do VLANs. It knows how to configure. So you will take that cable and still go out to your wall. And because your switch knows that there'll be untagged traffic coming from these 3 devices and this access point, and there'll be tagged traffic coming from this phone, since the phone knows it and the switch knows it, it can pass that information on to the Calyptix so that we can get this. So this is the most common use of a VLAN that you will see, and it's very complex, but you'll see it where somebody has added a switch in their room and now their phone doesn't work. but this is a way to get around that situation. And I wanted to show you guys a good way of getting around that just in case it happens to you. So now let's go ahead and get into the meat of what we're trying to do. And we're going to show some untagged traffic going from one NIC to another NIC. What we're going to do, our example, there'll be a box called main 21. It's going to go into the switch that we have, and that's going to go into NIC 1. Then we'll have an untagged computer, and that untagged computer will go into switch 2 and will be on a separate port on the Calyptix. This is called port VLANing. It's segmenting and knowing that you can segment the networks but still pass traffic. So if we wanted to enlarge it, you'll see, and I have this basically in the slides so that when you get the slide deck and you want to review, this is how I set up the Calyptix so that you guys can know and how I set up the switch itself. So I had a NIC 1 here going from the number 21. NIC 2 is going out to the AE. 3 is the 42 network and going out to NIC 2 on the Calyptix device itself. So let's go ahead and start this live demo so that we can see what we are doing here. So again, we're going to use our trusty dusty main 21, which is our main box. But before we get into the configuration, I want to show you guys what our switch looks like. So this is our D-Link switch. In our D-Link switch, we're going to set up VLANs here. So all of our VLAN configurations, and you'll see that the tag of VLAN ID is on Ethernet 1 and Ethernet 2, which means now I can talk from the Calyptix going out, and I can also talk to the Calyptix on the untagged network of Ethernets 2, 3, and 4. So we segmented that traffic so that each tag will have what it needs. So I wanted to show you what the switch looks like so that we can make sure, because a lot of our configuration issues are probably going to come with the switch rather than the Calyptix. As we look at our system, we are going to first clear this, and then we will do our IP config. And we'll see that we are 192.168.21.107. So from there, we're going to go to our untagged box, which you'll see is untagged 42 up here. And we're going to do an IP config on this. We'll notice it's on 172.16.42.18. So one is on the 192.168.21 network. One is on the 172.16.42 network. So the next thing we want to do is look at our Calyptix device. We'll look at the configurations of the Calyptix as we do. And like I said, most of this is for troubleshooting, just so that you'll know. You can scroll down on your main homepage, and under your link status, you'll see that NIC 1 is 192.168.21.1. You'll also see that NIC 2 is 172.16.42.1. So these are the two networks that we're going to be talking about, NIC 1 and NIC 2. All untagged traffic back and forth. But let's take a look at this NIC just to make sure that everything is in order. So when we go to setup, network, NIC 1, we'll see that the 21 network is here. Great. Now we'll go to setup, network, NIC 2. And we'll see that the 172.16.42, the 172.16.42 network is here. However, they also have enable LAN lockdown. The reason we wanted to get into this feature is because a lot of times when you're passing traffic, you may test and not know that you have the LAN lockdown feature on. What the LAN lockdown feature does is it makes anything behind that NIC not have the ability to talk to any other NIC that's on the Calyptix device. You can only talk to the internet. So with the enable LAN lockdown, we're going to look at this feature as well while we're testing. First, we're going to go to our main box that we have, which is the main 21, 172.16, and then we're going to try and ping 172.16.42.18. And we are able to ping this box. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the Calyptix so that we can see in our packet analyzer how everything is going to fish out. So under Home, Diagnostics, we're going to go to the packet analyzer. And what I like to do, and Warren is a big buff of this as well, is we always open a new tab on the diagnostics, and we always set up another ping test to where we are going. So we will have one ping test going to our NIC 2, and we'll say, let's say host 192.168.21.107. and ICMP. And we will start this packet capture on NIC 2, which is what we're looking for. But also we'll do ICMP and host 192.168.21.107. Doesn't matter which order you put them in. So we're just going to look at that traffic as we see. Right now we have no output yet, but we're going to take a look at that traffic and see. So from our main box, we're going to try and ping 172.16.42.18. And we see that we are able to ping that traffic. Now, on the Untagged network, we're going to try and ping 192.168.21.107. So before we do that, let me just verify so that we can show you guys. On NIC 2, we see that that ping was successful because you have a request and a reply. On this main network, we have a request and reply. So we see that that traffic was successful going back and forth. So when we get to our untagged traffic, we're going to try to ping the opposite direction. And we see it's not able to ping. We will go back to our packet captures to try and figure out what's going on. The reason that I wanted to show you this is because there are some times when the ping doesn't happen and you want to troubleshoot how it's done. So this is our main NIC 1. It never got to this page. However, you can see we are trying to get there from the 42.18 to the 107. That's why I believe the LAN lockdown is the issue. With the help of David Hodson, who is our RMA guy, he also does sales support. He was able to give me a faster box, and I wanted to give him a shout out. If you guys, we're going to take a commercial break to thank David for all of the work he does. A lot of times you don't see him in the background. He's doing a whole bunch of work, but I wanted to thank him on the webinar for all of the work and making sure that we have the equipment that we need for Calyptix itself. So appreciate all of the help and work that you do, David. We're going to go now to set up network NIC 2, and we're going to take off the enable LAN lockdown. Now, again, one of the gotchas or do's and don'ts of Calyptix is, although it says the network interface is successfully changed, in the background, it is restarting all of your services. It's making sure that everything is going to work. So if you rush it, it's not going to work still because the services are still being restarted. So we're going to give it about maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and then we're going to go back to our untagged network after taking off the LAN lockdown, and we're going to try to ping the 21 network again. And now we are successful in pinging our 21 network. So the reason that I wanted to show you this is because the LAN lockdown can also prevent you from looking and doing port VLANing between the Calyptix device as well. So if you wanted to see the traffic from the Calyptix and we go back to our packet captures, you'll see that now this 42.18 is now able to ping the 107 on both sides. So that's a good thing. Wanted to make sure that we had that use case in there with the LAN lockdown, because that is also something that can prevent you from getting everything done with the port VLANing if you're trying to segment your network and make sure. So another good example and use case of why you will want to use the LAN lockdown is if you're doing port VLANing and your guest network is on NIC 2, you can make it so that NIC 1 can still talk to NIC 2 and administer, but nothing on NIC 2 can talk to NIC 1 in your port VLAN. We're going to get back to our second demo. And in our second demo, we are going to talk about going from untagged traffic to tagged traffic and the possibilities of the errors that we might get into. So the first thing we're going to do is go from a box that is main 21, and we're going to try to go to tag network, tag 42, that device. So we're going to ping, and we're going to show all of the information that happens when we're trying to get. So this is a diagram from this box here on NIC 1. We are going to try to get to this tag network that's on VLAN 2 and some of the complications that we might have getting there. I also added in a large so that you can see how our switch is set up and how our Calyptix is set up on NIC 1 and NIC 2 as well. So let's get into this demo so that we can see what's going on. And we're first going to show you the machines that we're going to be working with. So we're going to be working with our trusty dusty main 21. And we're also going to be working with a device that we call tag 42. So the device is called tag 42. We'll show the IP address of tag 42. and it's 10.0.42.10. So we're going from the 192.168.21.107 box, and we're going to try to hit the 10.0.42.10 box. So let's take a look at the Calyptix and see how it's set up so that we can figure out if this is going to work and where it is. So the first thing we do is under Home, we'll scroll all the way down to Link Stats. And we'll notice NIC1 is our untagged network at the 192.168.21, but we'll see that our tag traffic is on VLAN 42, which is tagged on NIC2, and it starts with the 10.42. So this is the network that we are going to be talking on. So let's go and make sure. We'll go to Setup, Network, VLANs, and we'll see the configuration of our NIC2 to make sure that it's set up correctly. So we have a tag 42 here. It's on NIC2. It's NATed and LAN lockdown is off. So this should work if we try to ping the 10.0.42 device from the 192.168.21.107. So let's go ahead and take a look at that and see what we have here. Our tagged IP address is 10.0.42.10. And we are going to go to main and we're going to do ping 10.0.42.10. And we're going to see if we can ping it. I can't. So let's go ahead and troubleshoot why we can't. So the first thing we do is we're going to bring up our packet captures again, because this is the main resource that we use to see where traffic is going. So we'll try NIC1 and we'll do host 192.168.21.107 and ICMP. And just like myself and Warren always helps me out, we'll go to the VoIP traffic and we'll put in the same information, host 192.168.21.107 and ICMP. So we're looking for traffic on that machine going to both of these networks. Now you could use the 10.0.42.10 IP address in here as well, but we're just going to look at it from here. So now we're going to go back to 21 and we're going to try to ping again. And we still get our request timeouts. So let's go back to our Calyptix and we see that, hey, it is trying on the NIC. So it did at least reach the Calyptix on this side. So let's see if it reached the Calyptix, but it didn't reach the 42 network. The reason I brought this up and this use case is because a lot of people configure the Calyptix and they set the computer or the wireless access point on the correct IP scheme that they want, and then they can't pass traffic. They'll see it on one side of the network, but they won't see it on the other side of the network. This is generally because we did not set up the switch to configure to use that NIC. I'm going to show you guys how to set up this D-Link that we have here. So in our D-Link, when we're setting up VLANs, and you can either do port-based or you could do regular tag VLAN 802.1Q. In here, we created a VLAN tag of 42, but there's nothing associated with that VLAN tag. So what we have to do is associate the proper NICs that we have with that tag, which is 3 and 4. So once we associate those NICs, now NIC 3 and 4 of this switch know that, hey, they're going to be sending VLAN traffic. And I did this on purpose because a lot of people call and they say, hey, I set up the VLANs, it's not working. Well, if your switch doesn't know that it's going to be tagged VLAN traffic, it's not going to pass that traffic either. We'll go back and we'll take a look at trying to do that ping test again, and you'll see that the ping test went this time because our switch knows about the VLAN traffic, our Calyptix knows about the VLAN traffic, and our machine. Once all of those three know about that VLAN traffic, then the traffic will pass. So we'll take a look at the Calyptix. And as we take a look at the Calyptix, now you'll see that this 21 network can actually talk to the 10 dot network. And that's what we wanted on both sides. So now we have continuity between that one machine on the untagged network and the tagged network. And you can do that with multiple machines. So I wanted to show you the gotchas that you'll have when dealing with this and how to get around them and make sure that they work as well. This is our final demo that we'll have. And this is showing the wireless connectivity. So we have a wireless access point, as we said before, and we're going to show connectivity from the machines to the wireless access points, how to set it up, how to go about making sure that everything is in order from start to finish, from the aspects of this Ingenious and the Calyptix and the D-Link router, the D-Link switch that we have. So we will have this main 21 box. It'll be plugged in. Our Wi-Fi is on NIC 5 of this switch that we have. We also have a Wi-Fi device that we have all of these machines on, the 20 dot, the 50 dot, those are our two, and they're going to be talking into the switch, to the Wi-Fi device, into the Calyptix on NICs 1 and 2. So we're going to be showing you all of that information and how to switch back and forth and make sure that everything will work with the respect from a Wi-Fi device, VLANs, and the gotchas that you'll have with this as well. As we get into it, the first thing we want to do is show you the Wi-Fi setup. So in the Wi-Fi setup, we have, as we said, the Wi-Fi device. And in our Wi-Fi setup, we have two VLAN tags in here. One is called Michael, one is called Prince. Michael is on VLAN 20, Prince is on VLAN 50. So we'll take a little bit of a in-depth. Prince itself is set up just regular, nothing important. Our passwords and all of that stuff for testing. Michael is set up the exact same way, and you'll see the IDs in here. This is VLAN 20, and you'll see the ID is VLAN 50 into this one. This is how the wireless access point is set up to tag both the Michael network and the SSID of Prince. Now we'll look at the switch. In the switch, we also have to tell, hey, there's going to be a Michael network on 20. We need to know that we're going to be passing tag traffic from NIC 1, NIC 2, NIC 1 of the D-Link, NIC 2 of the D-Link, and NIC 5, which is the wireless access point. So all of these are going to be connecting. One of this is on the going to my switch, one is going to the Calyptix. We also have a Prince network, and we had to tell it, hey, we're going to be passing traffic from our switch that is behind all of our machines to our Calyptix and to our wireless access point. So we had to tell the switch that there's going to be tag traffic here as well. So now that we've set up the switch, we set up the wireless access point, let's go ahead and set up the Calyptix. So in setting up the Calyptix, the first thing we'll do is go to Home, we'll go to Setup, go to Network, we'll go to VLANs, and we set up our VLANs here, and we're looking, we have a Michael network, which is tag 20. Oh wow, LAN lockdown is set up on this one, which means we don't want to pass traffic. If someone's connected to the Michael network, we don't want to pass any traffic back to any other network that's connected to the Calyptix. We'll also see that there's a VLAN named 50 with the tag of 50 for Prince, and it's not locked down. So it should be able to talk to every other device that we have. So we'll bring out our trusty main box that we have. And in our main box, I just want to make sure that we have the correct IP scheme, and everybody by now knows the IP scheme by heart. But when we go and we type in IP config correctly, you'll see that it's 192.168.21.107. We have a Wi-Fi device, and this Wi-Fi device that we have is called Wi-Fi. And under the Wi-Fi, you'll see when you do an IP config on it, that it's set up 10.50.30.100. And when you go to your SSIDs down here, you'll see it's connected to the Prince network. Now, the Prince network, I know, is able to talk to all other networks. So 10.50.30.100, we are going to go and see if our main machine can talk to 10.50.30.100. So ping 10.50.30.100, and I put that in there so that I would not forget it. And then we're going to bring up our AccessEnforcer. And in our AccessEnforcer, we are going to bring up our trusty diagnostics. And in our diagnostics, we are looking at NIC 1, and we're going to say host 192.168.21.107. and ICMP. But we're also going to bring up the VLAN of Prince, and we're going to look at the same thing, host 192.168.27.103. And we're going to start both of these. So now that I can remember what the numbers are, we're going to go to main and we are going to ping. And when we ping 10.50, oh, I'm pinging the actual device that I'm looking at. Apologies. This is why I say it's very important that we do it live so that you guys can see that we are not perfect. And when we ping from the 10.50, we are able to see that we can see that device, and that is the device that is here. We'll go and look at our packet captures just to make sure, and we'll see that the 21 network is here. 192.168.21. This is my try that I had. So this traffic is passing over, and not quite sure. I think I might have closed my packet capture so you can't see the traffic itself, but we do see that it is here, and we are able to ping 10.50.30.30.100. And you'll see that there's a request timeout. So from my main machine, I'm trying to ping this Wi-Fi machine, and I cannot. So when I'm looking at my packet captures, on NIC 1, I'm sending the traffic. And when I look on my main, I'm still sending the traffic, and nothing is receiving the traffic. When this happens, and we wanted to show you this is because the packet capture actually shows you a lot more information than you know. This means that the machine is actually getting the information, but not sending any information back. So from this machine of the Wi-Fi machine that we have here, it probably has on its firewall so that it will not respond to any traffic. So that's why this is happening here, but we'll try to ping the opposite direction. Ping, because I know the firewall is off on the other one. 192.168.21.107. And when we ping this, we'll see it does ping successfully. So that gives me some insight that on this device that I have right now, which is called Wi-Fi, the Windows firewall is on, which is why this is not showing a full ping from the other side, but we can ping other things. So the next thing that we will try is we will switch networks. So let's go ahead and switch networks to our Michael network. So now that we are on this machine, we'll notice that the network that it's on is 10.20.0.100. Let's go back to the Calyptix first, and we are going to kill the connection on the Prince network because we're finished troubleshooting that. We will go to the Michael network, and we will do the same host, 192.168.21.107 and ICMP. And from here, we will show that we will clear this connection as well because I want to make sure that we have a clean slate from our NIC 1. And so now from this device, we are going to try and see if we can ping on the Michael network. Unfortunately, the Michael network we know has the LAN lockdown, so it's not going to be able to ping, but we can at least try. So this is our main network, and let's see what we're going to ping. From the Wi-Fi device, we are going to ping 10.20.0.100. So we're going to go back to our main network, and we're going to ping 10.20.0.100. And we are going to check our Calyptix because right now we're saying, hey, it doesn't ping through. This is the problem with the Calyptix, and this is the calls that we get. So we wanted to show you. So from our main network, you'll see that the traffic is passing to the 10.20.0.100 network. And we'll notice on the VLAN, we're also going from the 192.168.21.0 to the 10.20.0.100, which means this machine, it's hitting the machine, but the machine is not responding back to us. So what we're going to do is try to ping the opposite direction now. So from this machine, we're going to try and ping our main machine, which we know the firewall is off. So we ping 192.168.21.107. And in pinging that one, we're like, hey, that doesn't ping either. Your Calyptix is broke. That's generally the questions that we get. However, in looking at our packet captures, we'll see, hey, the 10.20.0.100 is trying to ping it, but unfortunately, it's not getting to NIC 1. So that means that somehow under setup, network, VLAN, when we look at it, the micro network is set with LAN lockdown. That's why we know that it can't get to any other network that we have. So I did want to show you some of the gotchas that you're going to have with setting up. One of the main things is people set up RDP and are like, hey, I can't RDP. It's because the Windows firewall is on the device. And that Windows firewall will prevent you from getting some of your pings and everything together. So if we go to, as a added bonus, since we have about 10 minutes, we'll go to our Windows Defender on the Wi-Fi device. And just quickly, we will turn off the Windows firewall just for a little bit. Turn off on all networks. I think that will be enough. The private network should be enough. So now that we have our Windows firewall off on this device, what I would like to try is to go back on main 21 and see now if we can ping the 10.20, which now you see it responds. And now we'll go look at our Calyptix device. So under our Calyptix device here, you'll see that you now have going from the 192.168.21.107, it now does ping through to the 10.20.0.100. So these are the main things that happen on a Calyptix device. And on the Windows side and the switch side, which could cause you a little bit of issues with setting up VLANs, not only with the Calyptix device, but with other devices. And we at Calyptix wanted to show you different ins and outs of things and how to get around them, how to troubleshoot these issues. So on your VLAN traffic here on your micro network, you'll see that it was receiving that traffic and now it is sending it back to the 192.168.21.107 network. So this was a brief insight of the Calyptix and how it deals with VLANs, how it deals with the VLAN traffic. We wanted to give you that so you guys can have that information. Now, a lot of this information is on the online portal. If you need other information and you don't have access to the online portal, we ask that you contact support at calyptix.com so that we can give you access to the online portal, because a lot of our resources and training are there. If you guys need to, and please, 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 for Bryce, for all of our other developers that have worked very hard, Aaron, Kurt, Lawrence, Bryce, India, they've worked hard on our YouTube page. Please go out to our YouTube page and subscribe to our YouTube channel where we put our videos up there to give you a little bit more insight. And we also have our Twitter, which Joseph has been working on, and our Twitter and Facebook and other sources of social media. Please click on, like, accept all that we have when it comes to Calyptix. So we did want to give you all of the information that we have, and I hope you guys learned a little bit about Calyptix.
Well, before we get to the questions, let me just reiterate that training is always available for you and your staff members. Feel free to email training@calyptix.com, and we can set something up with your individuals, with yourself, with your team. However you need training, we're here for that.
And we thank you all for joining the webinar again and learning a little bit more about how to troubleshoot VLANs, how to set up VLANs with Calyptix. And thank you all for joining us. And we will meet you on the next webinars that we have. Please keep a lookout for the new features that we have with the Community Shield. New features that we have. We're working on a lot of new projects that are coming up. One of the most important that we're working on, and the guys have put it into the box, and we did want to let the cat out the bag, is multi-factor authentication is going to be on the Calyptix and on the Calyptix sites that we have. So that's one thing to be looking out for our new build coming out. Thank you all for coming, and you guys have a good one. Thank you.